This video will take you through the second set of very important concepts that we're going to use in this class. So just as we're looking at the economics math side of things, we also, since this is economics of gender, need to come to some agreed upon definitions of what we mean by this term, gender. This is the social science side of it. So the first thing that we are going to learn about is that in social sciences, we distinguish between sex, gender, and sexuality. Right? So sex we're going to use for biological sex, and in economics, there are certain things where biological sex matters. It's not actually in many of the realms of brain and this and all that you can think of, but it's mostly around two things that women do, biological women do, that others cannot. The first is pregnancy, and the second is lactation. Right? So these are biological processes, and at a certain point in this quarter, when we start looking at male-female differences in the labor market, these questions of what happens when women become pregnant, whether you have family leave and so on, will become quite important. So sex, however, is different than gender. Gender is your personal identity and its relationship to your social identity. So it's how you are present in the world. It could be that you present as male or female, or you might present as queer or as gender fluid. It might be that you identify as a woman, but the rest of the world sees someone whom they feel is too mannish. Or you identify as male, but the rest of the world sees someone they think is too effeminate. So gender is about the mapping of how you are seen when you enter the world. And we're going to see that there are certain kinds of controversies surrounding, for example, trans women and bathrooms. Now, this might seem silly, but this is kind of important because if you're working 9 to 5, you do actually need to use the restroom. So these kinds of questions become important. And then there is sexuality. Sexuality is the relationship between your identity and whom you find sexually attractive. This becomes important when, for example, you look at questions of marriage, because many economic rights, such as healthcare or such as inheritance or ability to adopt, are very often linked to whether or not we recognize gay marriage, things like that. So sexuality, gender, and sex are different concepts. And then we're going to add a concept called intersectionality. Now, as it happens, when we start looking at things, we begin to realize that sex, gender, sexuality don't operate on their own. They often operate in conjunction with some other social determinants like race or class. So let's give you an example in terms of race. For example, we know that there is a penalty for black women that exceeds the penalty for white women when it comes to wages. So we're going to have to figure that one out. Similarly, when it comes to one which is going to be very important for us, nationality, where you were born, the country you were born to, and the culture you were born to, is going to make a tremendous amount of difference in terms, for example, of your educational ability, in terms of your ability to get jobs and things like that. So sex, gender, sexuality, intersectionality. So this concept or set of concepts is going to be very important as we go forward in this class. Now, before we go any further, please make sure that you review the videos, you do the readings, and that you're caught up with week 1, and that you get ready before you come for week 2. Starting with the next video, we're going on to week 2. Thank you.